See, some people burst, but I thrive under pressure. I hold them down from distance like I was playing catcher. I pray to God, life is crazy, you know he'll test you. For real. Yeah, you know he'll test you. I'm a living legend in the making, don't care what you think about it. The only time I step inside a bank is for deposit. Failure's always present, but for me it's not an option. Cause I gotta feed my family and I know the critics watch. They don't want to see you win, so they gon' try to stop it. A humble guy until you cross that line, then I'ma pop it. Choking out the competition on my Sergi Baca. Don't associate with lames and haters, they are all imposters. Don't see some people. Oh man. Today I am like dude, I am like super excited for this particular episode because we have a queen, we have a goddess, if you will. We have a beautiful, talented young lady who's a singer-songwriter, actress, model, film director, photographer. Jesus, you name it, she can do it all.
Wait! I thought we had Jessenia on today.
Everyone, please welcome Jessenia. I am super excited about this because all of these topics are topics after my own heart. All of them. And so I'm super excited. So everyone, welcome Jessenia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jessenia is a ball of joy, and you're going to find that out in this interview. Such a positive person to be around. Never has a negative thing to say about someone unless they cross her, but never has a negative thing to say about someone. And we're going to talk about that controversy that we can talk about a little later, but we won't spend too much time on it. But as DeAndre was saying, she's all of that, actress, model, singer, songwriter, and we want to get to know her in the process of who she was before she started writing and singing music and having such a big following on YouTube, until the person she is today. Jessenia, you want to? Oh, go ahead.
No, Jessenia, tell us who you are. Who's Jessenia?
Well, first off, I just wanted to thank y'all for having me, and it's an honor to definitely be able to sit in this room with y'all and basically be able to explain everything. So I am Jessenia, and that's my artist name. Obviously, my first and last name, Jessenia Mills. So I have to set the record straight because a lot of people get confused, but yes. And I'm a singer-songwriter, model, actress, director. I do filming, editing. I do photography. There's so much that's involved into this. And I'm straight out of Spring Hope, North Carolina. I'm in a small town. I'm not in the city. And a lot of people have asked me, are you in California? Are you in New York? I am nowhere in the city. I am straight south. I am straight from North Carolina. Bojangles, where you at? Please but that's pretty much where I'm at right now in my life. And everything is very independent. I don't have a record label that I'm signed to. I'm an independent artist, and I do everything on my own. A lot of the people that I work with to this day are people that I've come across throughout films that I've worked with other people on, or we've met on set, and I said, "Oh, hey, it's nice to meet you." It's all about networking and meeting people. And we linked back up, and I said, "Didn't you say that you do a little bit of directing or writing?" I said, "Come join me on this project." They said, "Okay," and that's how we've gotten a lot of the stuff that we have out now with the crazy music videos and stuff today.
Dude, that's awesome. That is awesome. You talked about being independent versus, not being signed. Explain that to people who are not familiar with, being an independent artist versus a signed artist. Because me, I'm an upcoming singer, songwriter, actor, model, all the good stuff. And I find that people who are independent artists, it's a longer road. But it's a lot more freeing, if I would say so. Can you explain the difference between an independent artist and an artist that is signed for those who don't know?
Yes, and DeAndre, I've seen some of your work and heard of it. It's really good.
Well, thank you.
Yes, of course. But yes, to answer your question, independent or being signed, yes, that's a really good question. It is a lot more freeing, but it's a lot harder. Like you said, it is longer to do. So when you're independent, you don't have the investors on your side. You don't have a full team working underneath you to make sure that legalities are in place. You don't have a full team to make sure that the coloring over here is done correctly, or that you said you didn't do a spell check here when you released this video. You don't have any of that. So when you're by yourself, you just have yourself, unless you have, every now and then you have a couple of friends or family members, depending on who you come across, that might say, hey, let me help out, but everything is done on your own, and it's done according to how you see fit. And when you're signed to a label, it's a little bit different. Obviously, they have a lot more resources, they have more leeway, they have more pull, and especially when it comes to legal representation, they are amazing in that regard. I had to go out and get my own legal representation. They don't have any, I don't have a whole crew that can do that for me and say, hey, we saw this person that was infringing, let's take them down. I have to do that on my own and fight my own battles, which can be it's an uphill battle. It's literally, you're still going up, but you're constantly just going up and down when you're going up. So with myself being independent, I had to invest in myself. I had to have family members and friends step in. They had to volunteer. They didn't have to, but they wanted to, because, they're glad to be a part of it. And I was really appreciative of them. And that's where it all comes through. Honest to God, I would have to say, in my case, it's mainly family oriented. Everything that I do, it's all family. And I include, when I say family, I don't just mean my mom, my dad. I also mean, my friends that I come across, people that I come across that I include into these projects. Your family. So I consider them family, and I appreciate it because it's not just a work. It's not just something we're getting done. It's not just a video release or a song release or anything like that. It's an experience, and it's something that we can look back on and say, wow, that was really cool. Or, that helped me grow a little bit. I saw something in myself and I did that. And that's what I like to have being an independent artist. And it is freeing because I don't have someone over my shoulder telling me what I need to do and how to do it. I do it myself because I want to do it. And I'm not limited because I say, you know what, if I want to go this direction, I'll go this direction. But like I said, there's some downsides with the money, but you gain all that by just being very hands-on and thinking outside the box.
Eventually, I feel like a lot of, most artists start off that way. And even when they're signed by labels in the beginning, because it feels like every artist, except for like the legends, but every artist, their first couple of albums is like their best albums, and then after that, it's like And I always equate that to when you're writing and being creative in your own space, you're on your own time limit. Like, you're gonna put it out when it's right, and then once you get with these labels that say, "Hey, look, we need 5 albums in 2 years." Now you're like, all right, if you put me on that kind of timeline, you're getting what you get. Yeah. You're getting what you get. I don't want to stick on it too much because I don't know how much you can talk about it. But one of the things you were saying was the legalities of things. And I know this part is known. There was another artist out there that had the same name as you. But you had established yourself as the artist, Jessenia Mills, way before her, and you had to go through a little legal battle for that. You don't have to go too deep into it, but what can you tell us about that and what that process was like?
So starting out, I love that. That's a great question. And this also kind of ties into what DeAndre had asked with being independent. So what they don't tell you when you're starting your music is that you need to trademark. People hear LLC and they think that's enough, and that doesn't protect you. You have to do a trademark. They think copyright and they think that's the same thing, and that's not the same thing. Copyright is going to protect your creative works, but that trademark is going to protect you as a whole and your brand. So if somebody crosses the line, you have legal rights. You have the federal ability to take their stuff down and say, no, you're crossing the line. I've given you the opportunity. Here's a cease and desist. Get it down. And actually, one of my representatives, we met each other on set. She plays on my mom in one of the films, and she said, you know what? I'm actually an entertainment lawyer. I do a lot of other things on the side as well. She's a full-on lawyer. Like, she does the whole shebang, and she specializes in entertainment on the side. So I said, you know what? Why not? I'm gonna get myself trademarked and protect myself early on, because I didn't want to build my whole empire and work so hard to have somebody take it from me just because they trademarked it before me or because they had more views than me. That wasn't going to happen. I was not going to allow that happen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were telling me, they're like, it costs money. Are you sure? You're not big yet. You're not ready. This is not a third. And I said, it doesn't matter. The point of the matter is I'm thinking about my future self, because when I get big, not if I get big, when I'm a household name, I want to have that set in place so I don't have to worry about it later because it sucks. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen all the time with clothing brands, music brands, whichever you want to call it. They build it, and now they're in a situation now where they can't even use their logo anymore. They can't use their name anymore, all because that person had beat them to the punch, or because you didn't trademark your name, you didn't protect yourself. So I went ahead and said, you know what? This isn't fun, but I'm going to get down to the nitty gritty. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to start going into it, and I'm going to trademark myself. I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to copyright my music, my lyrics, my videos. I'm going to get all that done. I'm going to create the logo. The logo, fun fact, we made that from scratch. One of my good friends, Eleonora Falabrino, let me say her name correctly. She's Italian. Eleonora Falabrino. I love her to death. She is my sister from another mister, I swear. And she actually came over. She was driving around and she was going to airport and was like, you know what? I'm going to come see you. We're going to create this logo and we're going to get this baby settled. And she comes over to my house and we sit down. And I said, I want this. I want a little curve. I want this. I'm kind of feeling the Lotus era. What are we doing here? And she said, okay. So she sits down on the bed with me and she starts making things and moving things around. I said, I like that. Whatever you're doing, keep going. And she makes the Lotus from scratch. She makes the font. Everything was made strictly handmade from scratch by none other than Eleonora Falabrino. So she's got some great stuff. I follow her, so I will be shouting her out later. But yes, so she helped development of that logo. And ever since, I've been using it on everything from album, hard copies, digital, all that fun stuff like that. It still is my name, Jessenia. It's still the first name, still the brand and everything. And yeah, that's pretty much the spiel behind it. I mean, it's tough, because with being independent, I don't have the money to constantly keep fighting legal battles. And I'm going to be honest, it's a true thing. It's expensive. It is not cheap. You have to get people to invest in you. You have to get people to take the time to really look into your issue for you. And luckily, I've come across people that I've met personally, so I haven't had to put out a lot of money. But it's really expensive and it's time consuming. It's insane, but it's worth it because, like I said, you're going to protect yourself in the end. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm protecting myself and I'm doing whatever it takes to make sure that this ain't going nowhere.
I feel you on that one. So trademark, got it.
You're doing the right thing because people saying a multi-million-dollar company like the WWF had to change their name to WWE. So you don't want to wait until then. So you're doing it the right way.
That's awesome. Jessenia, I want to know. I want to take it back, way back. Yeah, way back to how did you get started? What age were you when you first discovered that you wanted to sing, act, model, create in this aspect?
How far back do you want to go? Because she just has skin. She's actually 48 years old. She just has really
not even close. I'll never tell you my age. I'm sweating.
That was gonna be my next question, by the way.
Oh. That's a good question though. I started when I was around 3, actually. I was in pre-K. My mom, she signed me up for ballet lessons and I was doing ballet. I was in my little pink tutu, had the little, the little ballet slippers, all that in a bag of Cheetos. And I hated it and I sucked. I was bad and I couldn't stand it. Ballet is such a beautiful, it's a sport, but it's done so elegantly, but it's very strict. There's a lot of things that have to be done. And for me, I was one of those free spirit kids. I was not one you could tell to do something. I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. I can't stretch my leg that way when it goes this way. So sorry, but this isn't going to work for me. And they're like, Jessie, no, you have to. I'm like, no, I'm good. So later on, my mom, I go home, I'm still in my tutu and I'm spinning around. And at this time, I was really obsessed with video games and I still am, but I was playing a lot of Mortal Kombat. And I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a ballerina assassin. And I've said this before. Still continue to be that. But yeah, so I was dancing and mom was singing to some CDs. My mom, she really, I come from a family of musicians. My cousin is Brooke Simpson. She's originally in Mills, but she married and she's with Mr. Simpson. But Brooke Simpson was on The Voice. She placed 3rd place on The Voice, but she's my cousin. She's down the line. It's crazy. Small world. But our family, we are really musically inclined and we've just been very tightly knitted together. It's actually what kept us close and got us through a lot of hard times is singing. my mom was singing and she was going through different songs. She was singing stuff like TLC, In Vogue. We got Pink back when she was back in her day. Because, Pink wasn't always this punk pop. They were trying to put her out to be more pop vibes. They were trying to compete her with Britney Spears with the whole shebang. But I love seeing her growth. And I remember just listening to the song and I said, wow. And that's when it hit me. I was 3 years old, and I kid you not, I have memories from back then. I do. And I remember telling myself, I don't want to be a dancer. That's not what I want to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm into it a little bit more so now. But I said, I don't want to do ballet. This isn't for me. I want to be a singer. And I'm into that. Next thing I knew, I was getting all of her good CDs. I said, Sinead O'Connor. People don't know who she is. She's underrated. She's an Irish artist. She's really dope. I love her. But Sinead O'Connor, she got some great songs out there. I've had Evanescence when they first came out. I got all their stuff. I had a whole bunch of stuff.
Are you telling us you're going to shave your head?
No, I am definitely not shaving my head. I don't think that would suit me, but it suited her very well. But yeah, so I started getting all different types of genres: R&B, hip hop, old school. I mean, we can take it way, way back. There are a lot of old school artists. I mean, I could name a lot.
So unlike a lot of people, not a lot of people, but unlike some people, like I remember when, and it's not saying it in a negative way. My dad wasn't trying to be negative, but when I said I want to be an actor as like a 13-year-old, and a lot of us would get that you got to get a real job because it's not that they didn't think we could do it. They were trying to keep you away from disappointment. But you, growing up in a family of musicians, you had that immediate support if that was your goal. Am I right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Having a support system, glad you stated that, is a huge thing. With time, you'll start to learn that you'll start to become more of your own support system because they won't always be able to be there for you. But being young and being so influenced by my elders, it was really, really, really helpful. Thank God to have a family that supported me in what I wanted to do. And while I was doing ballet and doing entertainment, I did go into modeling. I started out very young and I grew up from there and then took classes and stuff and went all over. And I said, you know what? Music is still my thing. I went to school. I still went to school. I still went and got my degrees, communications, electronic media with a side slice of psychology. Yes, I went and got my degrees. I had to, because at the end of the day, my mom, my dad, they were the biggest voices in my ear telling me, we support you on this. We want to see you prosper. We know that you're capable, not just because we are parents. They are going to tell me straight up. When I couldn't hit a note, my mom was like, baby, don't even try it. Run that back for me. Dad would be like, what is that? They were they were never the type to just tell me anything I wanted to hear. My parents.
Did your mom say, Jessenia, stop trying to sing Minnie Riperton. Let's get on to another.
Yeah, she told me straight up. She was like, "You're not there yet, boo. Fix it." And I was like, "Okay." And and it was tough. I had very old school parents that were very honest, and they were going to tell you straight up, "That ain't for you, boo." But they knew that music was for me, and they knew that I had capability, and they pushed me, and I was trained. My mom was my vocal coach. She pushed me. I didn't go to other vocal coaches. I didn't have any of that. I trained myself, went to my mom, presented it, went to my dad, presented it, and I got all different types of feedback, and I kept going back. And this is over a span of 2 decades. So we're talking about 20 plus years. And that is a lot of time to be cultivating and working on your craft. And I'm still learning. I'm still growing. But right after that, got into singing, got into writing. Of course, I wrote my songs when I was around 7 or 8. I started doing little tidbits here and there, little jingles for like the Cheesecake Factory, little stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I wrote books from time to time, poetry. I went into a poetry regionals contest. That was really fun. I forgot the poem and they told me I couldn't read it. And I had to have automatic forfeit. It was so sad. But it was enough for me to know that I was capable of even getting to that point. So I kept pushing and kept pushing. You will hear no's, but keep pushing till you hear yes. And I started writing some more, and a lot of the songs now I've written over the course of years. So when somebody tells me, hey, you gotta come up with an album, I'm like, I got you. I got like 100 songs written right now. Like, no joke. Yeah. I got it all written. I come up with it in my head. I write it. I come up with a story. I find a beat to match. Sometimes I write to a beat, but most of the time I write everything from scratch, and I find something that can kind of go with it. It's just how my brain works. But
no, I feel you.
So that's how I got into it a little bit from the background.
You said you had your family. I think that's awesome that you had
and you have your family support, even having your family support, were there any fears that you had pursuing singing, modeling, and acting?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's still fears that are prevalent today. The fear is that really the fear more so is that I will never have or be enough. That's usually something that it's broad, and I say it broadly because I could specifically say, oh, it's this or it's that, but it's really just I'll never have or be enough. I always come across not a plateau per se, but I come across a sort of mountain that I have to climb each time with pursuing it, because it's not a battle. It's always gonna be something. It's always gonna be something that comes up or someone that comes up. And you got to be strong enough to say, you know what, I'm capable. You have to be confident in yourself, and you have to know this is what I want, this is what I want to do, and I'm not gonna take a no. I'm so sorry, that's not gonna happen, because this is what I want to do. This is my life, and this is how I see it. And it's scary. When I first started out, I was young, like I said, I've been doing it for a while. But in terms of when I decided to pursue it professionally, I graduated college and I quit all my jobs. It was scary. But my mom and dad, they're fully supportive of that. But what was really scary for me was that I didn't have enough money at the time to promote myself, or like I said, to get the film crew, to get, the songs out. I mean, it costs money. You gotta writing it and coming out with it is the hardest part, but it's the easiest for me because I do it myself. But in terms of, you still got to pay to have somebody master that. You still got to do all of that. And while I could do it on my own, it's time consuming. It's really, really time consuming. So you'll spend a lot of time in marketing and behind the scenes perfecting, more so than you do really with what they call the fun stuff, which is the performing and singing. I swear that's only 10%. The rest is mainly legal stuff, marketing, and protecting yourself. You got to do it all day, every day, 24/7. It never stops. But when you get your mind that's actually what my song Dream Life is actually about. And I talk about that a lot in my song. That's actually why I wrote it. I wrote it in the most stressful period of my life, where I literally, I stated exactly verbatim what was going on. People were like, oh, why are you complaining? This is what you wanted to do. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. Just because I said I wanted to sing, it doesn't just fall into place. You gotta fight. You gotta, it's a battle. You gotta kind of constantly keep going. But what kept me going was I said, you know what? I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to work a normal job. And I do work. I have my normal job that I do to supply myself, and I hustle. I have multiple different jobs. I work here, I work there, I work everywhere. I'm not going to go into all the specifics.
She literally has 17 jobs.
Hey. Yeah, 17 jobs. You already know. But that's what I do. I said, you know what? If I want it, I'm going to get it. So I'm going to fund myself. I'm going to keep it going. Mom and dad, they're supportive over here too. We buckle down and we get serious. We do knock if we buck. So let's get it.
Dude, that's awesome. What, if you're able to talk about this, or you want to share, you mentioned that for you, sometimes you just write to a beat. Sometimes you create the concept or the story in your head. I find that for me, when I'm writing, I feel like my mind is just constantly turning, constantly thinking about stuff, constantly thinking about just what story do I want to tell, or just stuff that I'm going through. So I understand when you're like, oh, I write to this concept or I write to the beat. What inspires you? You wrote Love and Madness. You created your first album, Love and Madness, during COVID, correct?
Yes.
What inspired Love and Madness?
Woo! So originally it was gonna be Love and War, but that was cliche. And I realized Love and Madness was gonna be perfect because in the album there's so many crazy moments that happen, especially Dream Life. That's the epitome of the madness there. It makes you crazy. And that's where I go into it was more so of a it's Love and Madness. It's a passionate album. It's not just about heartbreak and about myself. It's about the process also in pursuing what I love in my dreams. And that's why I call it Love and Madness, because it's one of those things where I love to do it. I'm passionate about it. It drives me wild in all the best ways, but it's also madness. I'm freaking crazy sometimes. There are times where I'm just like, I'm going to go into a nut house. Because, like I said, it's an emotional turmoil, and that's not something people talk about a lot. They want to make it seem like it's just one of those things where, they put it out. It's fun. I'm going to be honest. It's hectic. It's crazy. But I love it. It's insane. But I love it. I do. I love it.
That's exactly why you're on the process, because we get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
We talk about everything.
Mhm.
And there's a static reason
Yeah.
to why she does that because when you don't make me laugh when I say, you know, but having people to talk to when you do it, because I know we've had a lot of conversations over the years, and I think I like to think I give quality feedback instead of just listening to give a response or getting because I hate when I ask some when I'm telling someone something, they go, "Oh, everything will be all right. You're Keone." What is that? I know it'll be all right, but that's not what I want at the time. I want to talk about you're acting a little bit. Full disclosure: when Jessenia came back into acting and modeling, I was one of her coaches and worked with her a lot. And then she worked as a coach. And actually, this August, there's supposed to be a premiere of a show called Circles that you're on that you filmed a while back. And one of those things she's talking about is the mountain peak is the producer of that show loved her so much, but she's 10 years younger than the character needs to be. And so they weren't going to use her. And me and Jessenia made the decision, says, hey, what do we say, Jessenia? Give us a week. And me and Jessenia
Yeah.
met every day. She drove 2 hours and met with me every day for about 2 hours. And we worked on her acting older than she is. And
Yep.
at the end of that week, when you went back and re-auditioned, that producer was like, "Okay, she's it. She's the person. We got her."
I like it, man.
You proved the point. But she could have, in that moment, said, "Well, they didn't like me," and packed her bags and went home. So I think that's what you were alluding to when you say when you get to that mountain, you got to always that where you're thinking maybe I'm not good enough, but you're using it in a good way because at the when you get to the moment where you think you're the best thing since sliced bread, it's over.
Yeah.
True.
There's no more hunger. There's nothing else left to conquer. And what do you do? So I love that about
Yeah,
you.
in
Yeah.
football, I had a coach that would say, Stephen Wilkes, one of my favorite coaches. He said he would call it staying green. He put up this
Oh,
green
I thought you were
pepper.
gonna say he would yell, DeAndre, that's enough Gatorade for you today. Get back in practice. Okay, go ahead.
Well, if I'm drinking a lot of Gator, that means I'm doing a lot on the field. So thank you for saying that, Keanu. I appreciate that, for
Oh
insinuating that.
wow.
I appreciate that. No, but he would say he would say stay green. And it was alluding to what you just said, Keone, that a lot of people they get to, especially in the NFL, a lot of players get to the point where they're like, I've accomplished this, I've accomplished that, I was the best at this, or I'm the best at this, and they kind of just rest on their laurels, as they say. And at that point, it's
Mhm.
like that's when you are the most vulnerable because there's always, 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 always somebody that's hungry that is coming for your spot. And so it's great to see and to hear for you, Jessenia, in that moment where it's like they're like, no, but as Keone saying, you could have been like, oh, they don't want me, but instead you're like, nah, I'm not gonna take no for an answer. And so that's awesome. Like, would you dive a little bit into that? Like, what was the thing that fueled you to say, you know what, I'm going to drive 2+ hours to work with Keone. I'm going to do whatever I got to take to prove to them. Like, can you dive into that a little bit? Like, what was the
Oh,
psychological
that's an easy answer
driving
because I'm
force?
so handsome. No,
Of course. Of course. Well, that is one of the reasons. But also, Keone plays one of my lovers in the film. Fun fact. So he's also been that sort of motivator for me. I feel like a lot of the times it's so easy to say, oh, I do this myself. I do this. I'm my own motivator. Yeah, woohoo. One person cheerleader, but that's not the case. For me, it's kind of like you ever heard this saying where it takes a neighborhood to raise,
Absolutely.
to raise a child, and that's how I was raised, and that's how it still stands for me to this day, even as an artist. In all regards, it really does take a neighborhood to help the growth. You can't do it on your own. You have to have people around you that support you and that are gonna do what's best for you, and they know what's best for you. They're gonna always be there to help you out, and you're gonna help them out. It's not just a one-sided thing. It's one of those things where you're like, I'm gonna constantly give, and you're gonna constantly give. We're just gonna keep going. We're gonna keep giving, and that's where it is. That's my moral in life, that I can't do it on my own. And the people that I work with, I've developed a really close relationship, and that includes Keone and now you, DeAndre. And it's just one of those things where I would ask them, I would say, hey, I'm not feeling good enough. I'm not feeling there. I'm not always going to be that at the top of my game. Like, yeah, I got this. I know what I want. There are times where I need that push. I need that motivation. And I'll just sit there. I'm like, what do I do? And, you know, since we're on the topic of, you know, the film that's dropping in August and everything like that with Circles. And there were times where, you know, Keone, he was my cheerleader. He was like, you know what? I see a lot of potential in you. I want to see you thrive. Here's this opportunity. We're going to work on this. If it wasn't for him stepping up to that plate and doing that, he didn't have to. But if he didn't, I would not have been able to see my potential in that area at all. So I feel like there's a reason for everything. There's always a reason. There's always a reason why you meet people that you come across. And I always say, don't burn your bridges, you know, especially because you never know where they may not be right there then, but they may be there later. And it's always helpful to just don't burn your bridges. Keep the people that you really, you just love their energy, keep them around, because they're going to be back, or you're going to be back, and it's going to be a party. It's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be great. And so that's one of the things. But another thing is,
I'm like, you know why I'm laughing, Jessenia? I'm laughing because as you're telling the story of that, I'm remembering all the times on set where I wanted to choke you.
Okay, whatever.
because Jessenia, we gotta tell the stories because Jessenia was so new at it. I remember because I teach these to the actors that I coach now. Hey, if you know all your lines and somebody bumbles the line, just keep going. Because you don't know how many movies and TV shows where the lines that make it weren't even in the script, or they change it. So this is early. Forgive her because it was early in her acting stage. And it was one word I kept moving in a sentence by accident. And every time I moved that word, we'd had to cut because she just fell apart. And she's like, John, you keep changing the line. I'm like, Jessenia, it doesn't matter. You know your line, keep going. And for like 20 minutes, we just kept going back and forth. And now I guarantee you that's not even an issue for her. You could say the complete wrong whole sentence, and she's probably going to keep going. But that was I was like,
I'm glad you stated that. I'm a perfectionist. I heard it, I was like, okay, that's not the line. It would just like brain freeze me all the time. But now, yes, I've definitely worked on it. I've been in a lot of other projects since then. I've, you know, got my own project since then. And yes, there are lines that honestly, I feel like the best things that happen are when it's unintentional. You just kind of go with the flow. You're like, wow, that was not what I was going for, but that's perfect. And that's how I've pursued it ever since. And that's why I like Keone as well, because in that moment, I realized not everything had to be so cookie cutter. Not everything had to be,
Yeah.
No, it can go all over the place. Either way, it's still going up, but it's going to go all over the place. And it's going to create a beautiful masterpiece. It's going to be a work of art. And that's what it's about. It's about enjoying the process and not being so hard on yourself and so strict and so cut and dry. Go with it. And like you said, a lot of the best moments, especially like, you know, and I'll give an example like Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, a lot of those moments were very thrown out there, including with Fast and Furious moments. There were some comedic lines or whatever like that were being said, and they all said, you know, we just went with the flow. That was not in the script, and that's part of the joy. It wasn't part of the script.
So, you just brought up a good one in the Fast and Furious, that line where The Rock is walking up and Tyrese said, hide your baby oil. He said, hide that big ass forehead.
He did. He was like, that was not part of the script. And they went with it. And that's when, what was it? What's his name? Oh, shoot. He had spit his drink out and everything. And I was laughing.
Because no one was expecting it. It's like those scenes can be perfect. If you didn't notice, it just got really dark in here because it looks like black clouds just descended over my apartment complex. And it looks like it's about to monsoon out here.
Oh, yeah. That North Carolina weather be crazy.
Yeah.
We have all types of
South Carolina too. We ain't gonna,
oh yeah.
No, but Jessenia, talk to me about one. I'm loving this. So my acting career is debuting tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I auditioned for a couple of plays here in Greenville. The first one that I'm in, it's called Hank Williams, The Lost Highway, and I play a character named T-Tot. who was Hank Williams' mentor, and the play starts tomorrow. But to y'all's point about kind of going with the flow, I've been one of those guys that's kind of like I'm on set and I'm just watching everything that's happening, and I hear people that'll the line is supposed to be said a certain way and they'll just completely paraphrase the whole thing and they'll just roll with it. And our stage manager at times will be like, guys, we're paraphrasing a lot of stuff. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, who's gonna know that? Like,
Wow.
who in the audience is gonna know that they are paraphrasing a line? So
Delicate
um
balance.
and in those moments, like you were saying, sometimes like they'll paraphrase or they'll add a word or they'll take a word out and it hits different. And I'm like, oh man, that is awesome. So I'm learning the whole improv thing. Just flow. Just flow with
Well, and
it.
sometimes it's not on. Well, it's a. I was saying when you were talking, it's a very delicate balance because some people will use that as an excuse not to practice their lines.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell when someone is getting so into character that they'll say something, a line. Like if you have lines that are angry, and you might say something that works so much better, but it's not on purpose. You're just so into character,
Yep.
or a
Mhm.
love scene, or all kinds of things. So it's a big difference. I understand that guy because it's a big difference between theater and TV and film. Most people who go watch plays, they know the plays, so they know every line, they know the ins and outs. But most people who watch,
One
TV,
second, really quickly. So sorry,
no,
it's an emergency. Give me one moment. Keep going. Give me 1 second.
um, and so I get it, but you know that can be a detriment or it can make it even better. So it's a real delicate balance, and everyone can't get away with it, but sometimes the best films or the best TV shows or the best plays is someone saying a line or something that wasn't written to be in there.
Dude, it seems like the best things in life are created by accident, honestly. Like, that's what it.
Wait, I feel attacked. I was born by accident. I feel attacked.
No.
It was very static of you.
No, I was saying
Yeah.
like you think about like you guys mentioning like the Fast and Furious or
Mhm.
even just certain things that have been invented, man. Like it was somebody was intending to do this and they added something else or they took something else out or they just forgot and just did something else and they ended up creating something that was just beautiful. And so it's
But
like
it comes from knowing the base. So,
right,
like I was saying with the actor, if you don't know all your lines, you can't just improv the whole thing and think it's going to be
true.
hilarious. It's coming from that. So, like, when the French fry or potato chips is accidentally made, or something, a food that was made by accident because someone cut it too thin,
Hmm.
or did something wrong. But when they started, they knew what they were doing, or they had a reason for what they were doing. There are some things that are just created, out of nothing. But when it comes to TV, film, and theater and singing, you come in there with an idea. Unless you're the one creating it, then it may come from out of the blue. I don't know what happened to me. I used to write poetry so much in my teens and 20s, and it would just come to me out of nowhere, and I'd write it all down. I had like a whole 3 composition books filled. And then like after 27, I think I may have written between the age of 27 and 44 3 poems.
Mm.
So sometimes striking while the iron is hot, we know that phrase. um, Another thing is not waiting. I say this a lot, not waiting for all the planets to line up to create your perfect invention or to do something that you want to do, because that might not come.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I think I mentioned this to you before, and if I have not, it is the first time. But here lately, man, I have been really intent on the direction and the direction I want my life to travel in. I read this
Mhm.
book called The Principle of the Path, I think it was
Didn't
Andy
eat much.
Stanley that wrote this book, but he was talking about how this principle works in our life the way like background music just is playing, like when you go to Starbucks or any place that there's this music that's playing that you don't really recognize. And he was like, this principle works that most people, they they have intentions on doing something, but they'll set their direction in a certain place. And being in the fitness industry, I see it so much where people will be like, "Oh man, it is my intention." You see it every year. Everyone has these New Year's resolutions, and they're like, "Oh, it is my intention to work out 3 to 4 times a week. It is my intention to lose 10 or 15 pounds." However, this background music of habits that they formed that just continue to play, and that they don't set themselves on a path of this is what
Well,
I'm doing.
sometimes sometimes it's and you're right, this is not in to disagree with you, but it's not an absolute, because sometimes I just think it's somebody's doesn't know the difference between an intention and a desire.
Hmm.
Okay, so 6 years ago you could not find me in a gym 5 to 6 times a week. When I stopped
Same
working
here.
out 5 to 6 times a week, and I tell my friends, they're like, when the last time you been to the gym? I'm like, 2 weeks ago. They'd go, what? Well, because it wasn't a desire anymore. When I was going to the gym for those 12 years, 5 to 6 times a week, it was a desire for me. Now it's more of, yeah, I need to go to the gym. So every now and then I drive my butt down there and I work out. So I want to, but it's not a desire. And how you can sometimes determine that is, you get this all the time. Of course, I was a personal trainer. You own a gym. It's Tuesday. You say you want to work out. And what do people always say? I'm going to start on Monday. That's
Yeah.
6 days from now. Why can't you
Yeah.
start tomorrow or today or Wednesday or Thursday? Why you gotta
Yeah.
wait to a whole, and then Monday comes and then there's rain or they're late from work. Oh,
It
I'll
was
start next
raining.
Monday.
It was raining. It
Yeah,
must not meant to be. Yeah.
yeah. I'll start next Monday. Next thing you know, it's 2 months later. But that thing you said about New Year's resolution, it used to drive me crazy when I was a gym rat. Uh, from January to March, I'd be like, can March get here so all of you can get out of the way?
Man, dude, I'm telling you, it really is like that.
Gyms make their quotas in the first quarter of the year, don't they?
It's no for real. It's like everybody, every gym is like, oh, um, yeah, man, don't worry. January, February, it'll pick back up, and then we get a new surge of people. But that's where like I that's the part of me being a fitness gym owner
Mhm.
where I struggle because I'm
Oh,
like,
wait. Did you just see that? How she slightly came in like an angel and the light slowly dissipated. When you go back and watch this, I want you to see what just happened to her camera. It was very spiritual and scary at the same time. I don't know what that was.
well, welcome
Jessenia, we're
back.
talking about I forgot the word you used. DeAndre, I said desire and you said people
Intent.
have a
No, I said
intent.
people
We
have
talked about
intent. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about an intent versus desire and some. So I said I stopped bashing people a long time. Not that he was doing that a long time ago when they had an intent to do something and they didn't do it, because I realized, hey, they had an intent, but it wasn't a desire. And they've got people have to learn what their desire is. So I was telling him I desired to go to the gym 5 to 6 times a week, 10 years ago, when I did it all the time and would never miss. And now it's an intent. I go there maybe 2, 3 times at the most a week because it's no longer a desire. And so that's what we were kind of talking about. And with you, when I met you and you were going through the acting, it was an intent, it was something you wanted to do. And now that I've seen you in a bunch of different projects, it's along with your singing, it's a desire. I can tell when it's switched over to a desire. But that's something that has to come from within. No one can make you
Yeah.
desire something.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love yeah.
Go ahead, Jessenia. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really like that a lot. I'm sorry I had left and came back. I'm back. I'm back. Sorry.
It's okay.
Shame on you,
Look,
Jessenia.
look. Me and DeAndre know how to hold the fort down till the guests get back.
Look.
They were in good hands.
Oh yeah, always, always.
Yes, I never heard the intent and then the desire put together. I really like that because that's really true. It was just like I had when I went to school, and everything. I had an intent to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I had an intent to, you know, go behind the scenes and do more of that sort of stuff. Yes, I was behind the whole thing. I want to be a forensic scientist with a background in psychology. That was the goal. I had some law classes that I was doing. Yeah, I was in it. I was in it to win it, and I was going to go get my master's and all that in that field. And then I was like, you know what? That is not my desire. I still kept feeling like something was missing, like there was this gaping hole. And that's when it hit me. And I said, I have not sung in a while. I was actually in an a cappella group for the longest during that time, but I loved it. It was a great experience, loved everyone in it. But I felt like I was limited because I wasn't really separating myself and going my own path and kind of going on my own journey involved in that. I feel like that was a part of it, but I knew that I had to separate myself and say, Jess, you need to go full-fledged and do your own thing. And I like how you guys talk about with acting and everything. I did a little theater acting too, so I can definitely relate DeAndre on that regard. And that was a lot of fun. We did the Twilight Zone. It was so much fun. But yes, Keone, when I did theater acting, it was so much different from television acting. And when with theater acting, you could go and kind of wing it sometimes, but we usually had to be a little bit more strict with our lines because everything was live. If we screwed up, we screwed up. But with television acting, you can always kind of redo a shot. You can make it go with the flow. They can always edit it accordingly. So it was really helpful being able to take pointers in terms of that and kind of grow in that regard. But the intent, like he said, the intent was there. And then once I really honed in on what I really wanted to focus on, my desire was there. But for music though, hands down, that is always my desire since birth. That it was like I came out the womb just singing,
I'm mad at you right now.
Why?
You said you've never heard intent versus desire before. I guess I've coached you so much information you can't remember it all.
Sorry, I don't
Remember
that
that elevator pitch. What do you like and what are you passionate about? Two different things. It's kind of the same thing.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, in that regard, yes. Yes, I was taught this. Yes. What are you passionate about? What do you like? It's great. It's great. I'm going to teach that to my students in the future. But yes.
Don't worry. I don't call it stealing. I call it passing on knowledge. Sorry, DeAndre.
No. I was Jessenia, I was just telling Keone that I read a book called The Principle of the Path, and I believe Andy Stanley wrote it, but he was talking about the principle of the path is this direction, not intentions, determines your destination. And so in the book, he was talking about how people have intentions on doing something, but they don't set themselves on a path. And so, when you talk about intent and desire, I more so look at it like a lot of people, again, they have, oh man, I want to do this, but they don't set themselves up on a path to become whatever it is that they want to become. More so they're scared. I just feel sometimes people are afraid to put in the work, or they may not be afraid to put in the work. I just call it what it is. They're lazy. They don't want to do the work. They want it to be handed to them. Especially society we live in today. Everybody thinks things.
You know what, DeAndre? I agree with you, but I think a lot of people don't understand, especially people that I work with and for, how lazy I am. And you're laughing, but I am so serious. Now when it comes to things I need to do for me, I am so lazy. But if I had to do something for Jessenia and the deadline was tomorrow, 3 p.m., it's going to be done. It's going to be done early. It's going to be straight. Everything's dressed, T's are crossed, I's are dotted. And if it's for me, it'll get done on Friday. So that's why with my company, I'm waiting to get to the day where I can just pay a bunch of people to do stuff, because every Monday I'm like, oh, I got to do
it's
things.
Coming. It is coming, man. It is coming.
I want to piggyback off of that a little bit too. Y'all both said some really great points, and I feel like sometimes it can be laziness, but from experience and just from meeting all different types of artists and throughout, both who have made it, because I've met those, and those who are still, we're still going and still going on the battle. I mean, even though they say we've made it, they're still continuing. It's one of those things where people think when you get there, everything's gonna just, you're done. Your job's done. It doesn't stop there. You got to continue to do it. Even when you make it to the so-called top, there is no top. It's just going and reaching your farthest as you can go and keep on going. And that's one of those things where I say, I don't say sometimes it could be laziness. Some people, they do want things handed to them, but I feel like a lot of it is coming down to, I would say, ego. It's more about they underestimate themselves, because for me personally, I felt that like I said, I had the intent, I had the desire, wanted to go for it. And like I said, like when you said direction and everything, the direction, I just couldn't figure it out. Whereas I had the passion there. I was willing to do whatever it took, but I had no direction. So the only thing I could do was really ask people, kind of garner things around, but I kept coming into a sort of wall, a sort of standstill. And I realized it was because I was underestimating my capability. I didn't have to go to this person to get this thing done. I could do it myself. I didn't have to go ask this person how to do this. I could search it up myself and do my homework and figure out what works best for me. Because sometimes people will say, oh, if you do this, you'll get it. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's journey is different. Not everybody has the same flow, same look, the same vibe, none of that. So whatever that person did, it's not going to work for the other person. It just isn't. Once it happens for that person, it happens. They're not going to let anybody else get there. I'm just saying, like that's how it happened with TikTok. They let one person get famous, and now all of a sudden everybody want to be famous, and they don't let everybody do it. It's the same thing. Everybody has their own thing that's going to set them apart from the rest, everybody, and that's going to boost them up to the top. It's just that simple. But it's knowing what your capabilities are and believing in yourself to be able to achieve that.
Also, it could be, I think it's a lot of factors. DeAndre talked about people being lazy. That can be a factor. You talking about people's ego, that can be a factor. But also, depending on where that person is in their age and career and their history of what they've been through is sometimes a determinant factor. There's some things sometimes I want to do it, whether it's a job offer or something. And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm old, but 20 years in the Army wasn't easy. MMA, Kung Fu, karate, I've done so many things. And sometimes I get something handed to me and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. People look at me crazy because I don't get out of bed before 10 a.m. Well, I'm like, I spent 20 years getting out of
the life, bud.
Huh?
Yeah, I call that the life, man.
Think about this. Elementary school, you got to get up early, go to school. You got to get up early, go to school for junior high. You got to get up early, go to school for high school. Then I went straight into the Army. That's getting up 4:30 in the morning. So from the age of 7 to the age of when I retired, 40, that's 33 years of getting up at 4, 5, and 6 a.m. I'm over that.
I hear you.
Oh, yeah. And I like that you mentioned that too, because a lot of people think you gotta have, if you want it, you gotta go after it. I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I run my 2 miles, and then I go home, I cook, I clean, and I write my story, and it's done. And I'm just like, well, that's your prerogative. That works for you.
Right. It's 24 hours in a day. The time you wake up is the time I'm going to sleep, and I got everything done before I went to sleep that you got done when you woke up. So how about that?
Right.
It's all the
And that
process.
person's also going to bed at 7 and 8 p.m. Oh no, I can't.
Man, dude, I've tried to do that, go to bed before 11, and it just doesn't happen.
I got too much stuff to do. There's too much stuff
Oh,
to
it
watch.
never happens. You'll be up.
It just doesn't.
There are days where I didn't sleep. I just stayed up for 24 hours. I said, well, it's not going to get done if you go to sleep, so you might as well stay up. Like, you got to be your own. You got to have a lot of not just determination and motivation. Motivation is the biggest thing I always say, because sometimes it's like, it's not that you don't want to do it. It's just that, dang, like, I got to get motivated. Sometimes your mind is your worst enemy. It'll tell you, oh, why are you doing that? You don't be doing that. Why are you doing that? They told you to do this, but you can be doing this. And then before you know it, you go on this loop, and it's this constant battle with this war of yourself. People think it's, you got to fight this person, you got to go against this person, but really it's yourself. You really got to constantly go at war with yourself and keep telling yourself, this is where I'm going, and this is this is how we're going to do it, and this is how it's going to be. Get with it. Let's go. You got to be your coach. You got to be, Discipline is a huge thing. And like Keone was saying, waking up, going to sleep later, that works for him. And that keeps him at a steady pace to where he can do things according to what works for him. And DeAndre, like, if you can't go sleep for 11, sometimes that's when, I know for some people, a lot of the most creative juices come late at night when everybody's asleep. That happens for me. It's 2 a.m. That's usually when I want to write something. It's kind of ridiculous. I'm in the bathroom. I want to write something. I'm on the bus. Ooh, I like the way that sounds. I'm going to write something. And I kind of take advantage of that because it doesn't just, people think, oh, just go with it and just do it and plan it. It isn't planned. It's an experience that you have to just allow yourself to just go with it. And you just got to keep going, but be disciplined. Know your limits and know what's important for you. And if it's important for you to be well rested and be able to have that flexibility with your time so you can still pursue your dreams, but still have flexibility for your family and all that stuff, then that's your prerogative. And nobody else can tell you you're doing it wrong because everybody has their own way of going about it. There is no wrong or right way to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue because once again, it is your thing, Hannah. It ain't anybody else's. And that's important to remember too.
Oh boy, if that is not the truth, I've recently realized, I have recently come to learn that there is no right or wrong. It's like you are figuring this out. Like life is one of those things that it is unfolding in front of you every single second of the day. You were talking. I'm gonna ask this question. The question I want to ask is: do you think where you are is? Why are you laughing, man?
It's the same reason why Jessenia's laughing. Look at the screen.
Why am I laughing?
Wait, what happened?
You've seen Weekly Win. Keep going.
I wanted to.
It's been up for like 12 minutes. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Honestly, I'm being honest with you. Both of y'all are frozen on my end, so I can't see anything.
That's what's going on. All right.
So,
okay.
On here. Now it makes sense. Go ahead.
So I'm just like talking to two frozen people.
Really? Oh my God!
Yeah.
What does it look like?
I hope we're frozen.
Do you want to know what your face looked like right now, both of y'all?
I'm just playing.
No, but the thing I wanted to ask is this because lately I've been having this I've been going back and forth mentally about this. So growing up, the creative process and what you want to do, I've always had this belief that, whatever life gives you, that was what you were meant to do. People say, oh, this is meant to be. But here lately, I have been really thinking about, we have the ability to create whatever it is that we want to create. Like everything that we see, the shirt I'm wearing, the shoes, the house, the cars, whatever, everything that we can physically see and touch, it started in our minds. And then somebody said, I'm going to create that. And then they brought that forth. When it comes to goals, dreams, any of these things, how much of it is divine, and how much of it do you believe is divine, and how much of it do you believe is somebody saying, I'm going to do that. This is what I see, and therefore I'm going to will it to happen. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And to answer your question, I'm not even going to hesitate. There is it's not separate. They're together. It goes hand in hand. At least for me, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a firm believer in God, and I ain't changing that. And for me, I was given the cards that I was dealt, and I knew, like I said, I underestimated myself because there were a lot of things that I was like, oh, I need to get this person to do this. And then I sat down and I talked to God and I said, what do I do? What do I freaking do? Because no one else could answer that question for me because they didn't know anything that I was doing. They weren't going on that type of route. You got people that don't really know too much about that because that's not where they were heading in that direction. And I had to sit down and I said, this isn't meant for them to answer. This is meant for me to ask God, what do I do? And he was like, you have everything in front of you. Everything that you're asking for, you have it. And I was like, and that's when I got creative. I started getting things done and I started doing things outside the box. I was like, you know what? If I can't do that, whatever, I'm not going to do it. We're going to go this way and we're going to swing it around and flip it over here. And they're like, wow, how'd she do it? I'm like, God, baby,
Right.
always. But it's also on the sense of, yes, you are that person. You're going to be doing the actions. I always say that God is my strength. He's going to be the reason why I keep going. But at the end of the day, I'm the person that has to accept his gift. And this was actually something that I spoke about with my mother recently and my dad as well. But we're talking, and I remember it was about the art of accepting God's gift, and he wants you to accept it. And that's a whole religious other thing that I'm not going to go too deep into. But for me, it was one of those situations where I realized, accept it. Accept the gift. Take it. He wants you to have it. It is nothing for him to keep giving and keep giving. Well, you don't deserve it, whether you deserve it or not. He's going to give it to you. And it's about accepting that gift and honing in and using that gift to the best of your ability. And that's when I realized that, yes, I'm the one that's I always say that it's God's picture. I just held the pen. And that's one of my favorite artists is Lacey Sturm. She's from the band Flyleaf. And it was something, I think it was called Penholder, but she was talking about how she wrote her music. And she said, it just flowed right on the page. I just held the pen that day. And that was what it was for me. I may be the person that's doing it, but at the end of the day, it's God that's allowing me to be able to do it. And I always give him the credit, no matter what. But at the end of the day, last but not least, I will say when it comes to pursuing my dreams for people who are not too spiritual and looking at it from a more mental perspective, that's okay as well. No judgment here. But I will say the best thing that I've done and what I've heard was, if you want something to come to reality, write it out. For me, like you said, everything that we see and touch and everything, it started out as an idea, right? And then it became a reality. Well, it's the same thing. For me, I wanted things that were considered unachievable. I wrote it down on a sheet of paper. And for me, writing it down and seeing it in front of me, it made that big, huge, impossible thing possible because I wrote it. I could see it. It was so small and it was written on that piece of paper. And that gave me all the motivation that I needed to be able to say, this is reality. I wrote it down. It's done. It's there. Yeah. And that's how I pursue a lot of my passions. I can't hear Keanu.
That's good. That's really good. I have found I'll write stuff down, but I think for me it has been me just saying in my mind, this is what I want to do. And then I set myself on that path. And what I have found, you talk about holding the pen. I'm a firm believer in God as well. Like that ain't the same thing. That's not changing. I firmly believe that same creative power that God has, I believe he gives us that. And I believe he gives us the ability to create whatever it is that we want to create. And I believe by us creating, we are actually bringing him glory by doing what he's given us the ability to do. And so for me, it's like, you write it down. Me, I'll be in my mind, I'll say, okay, this is what I want to do. And then in my mind, my mind just switches and it's like, all right, we're doing that. And then I have found that like I've started, you start attracting people to you. Like this whole show came about because I was like, oh man, I want to have a podcast called The Process Podcast, talking about this, reaching out to people. And then I met Keanu. And then it's like, oh crap, this is legit happening. And now I get the ability to talk to different people.
I feel sorry for both of y'all.
and now it's like, oh, I want to be a dope mega recording artist and actor and model, and it's like all of these things are happening. And so it's just like I'm a firm believer that God gives us the power to do it. We just have to
be the ones to do it.
We just gotta go.
You gotta do it. And that comes right back into like we were talking about earlier when it comes
to. Oh, so both of y'all get to chime in on that one. We just gonna skip over me, okay?
No, I'm tying it into what you were saying with the intent and desire.
I haven't said anything for 40 minutes. I was just what you talking about?
Don't come over here. I'm just messing with you.
Because I grew up as a Christian, and I consider myself spiritual these days. I don't care who hates it. I don't really dive into religion and go to church. But one thing that helped me when I used to get asked that question, and this is not to disparage Christianity or God or any of that. This is not what this is. I thought to myself one day, I said, you know what? Everybody in the world is not Christian. So how are the non-Christians that are successful succeeding? So it's got to be something with me as well. It can't just be whatever deity that you believe in. That's got to be part of it. But then that self accountability part has to be as well, because if there's successful Hindus and successful Buddhists, well, then what are they doing that I'm not doing? They must have that self accountability while they're believing in whatever they're believing in. So, for anybody out there who's not Christian, any atheist watchers or any other religion, follow the same suit. Whatever your beliefs are, but have that self accountability as well. Because my grandfather used to tell that story about I'll do the short version, the guy who prayed to win the lottery, and God actually spoke to him and said, "You're going to win the lottery." And every week he didn't win the lottery. And after a couple months, he got angry at God and said, "You said I would win the lottery and I didn't." He said, I want you to win the lottery, but first you got to buy a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like how you gonna win a lottery if you don't buy the ticket? Exactly.
Right. So
Yes.
that's what I get out of that too. Like, you want me to do something, but you ain't doing nothing.
Oh
So-
yeah, there are
happens
people
all
that
the
believe in the
time,
universe and butterflies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. I just feel like sometimes people, to you mentioned this, people, when you said you didn't realize the capabilities you had, I just feel like people don't understand that, like, a lot of it, we hold the power to create and be whatever we want to be, but it requires us actually going after it and then developing the skills, developing the mental capacity, developing the endurance to run whatever race that we are going after. Because you have to run, you got to run. Nobody's going to be able to run for you. And so that's what I've been learning throughout this process. So,
Well, there's
oh
two
boy, we
sorts of
are.
people that fall into that. There's people who have been coached and taught that and fail to listen, but then there's also people that sometimes, heck, I've hired 35-year-olds where I'm the first person to tell them something they should have heard 20 years ago. So sometimes it's that as well. When
Yeah.
people say, "I'm going to do it on my own," I always laugh because nobody does anything in life by themselves. And sometimes some people haven't ran into the right person that's influencing them well. Sometimes I've seen people that other supervisors would say, "Well, this person's a lazy worker." And then they give them to me, and it's the greatest worker that I've ever had. So it's like, so
Mhm.
sometimes that plays a part into it as well.
Right.
One
Well,
talking
guys,
about
Oh yeah.
before no, what's that?
one talking about you, Jessenia.
Huh?
Guys, before we get
Oh,
into
wow.
before
Static.
we wrap this up, and oh boy, this is just beautiful.
You're gonna
Before
love this
we
part, Jessenia. Go ahead.
before we get into our weekly wins, I want to read this quote that I read today, and it has really impacted me. Um, it's by a guy named Ryan Fisher. He says, "Think about what other people think about you after the first time meeting you. What is it about you that people will never forget? Were you just like everyone else, or was there something special about you? When you can make yourself unforgettable, opportunities will never be limited. Find a way to be unforgettable, to be contagious, and success will never be far away." So for everyone that is listening, I've learned the best commodity, the best thing about you is you. There is nobody like you. Nobody has the same DNA, the same voice, everything about you. There's only one you. So to everyone who is listening and have, watched this show, if we can encourage you to do anything, it is to be yourself. Be yourself and find the things that make you special. Share that with the world. There are so many carbon copies. Everybody's trying to be like everybody else. So I wanted to drop that um,
When did you first see that quote?
today,
So
literally today.
do you remember someone asking you what's special about you?
Yeah, man, you asked that the very first meeting, man. I know, and I didn't know how to answer that question, but now I do, man.
See, I ain't crazy, people. I know a little bit.
I it was just it just hit me different. It just hit
Mhm.
me different, just finding a way to be unforgettable and contagious, man. And so, Sheesh,
Well,
I don't
you
know.
both
That
know the
has
way to live forever, don't you?
Make your mark
uh
on this world.
No, no, because in time you'll be forgotten. I mean, how many megastars from the 30s do you remember? Or the 20s, or the 40s, or the 50s?
I would
You
say
know,
make history. I mean, be part of the history.
no, but I'm just saying that still can be forgotten. How you live forever is you teach someone something, something that they can pass on to
yeah,
someone else. And then
Like a
that's how
yeah,
you live forever. Your name will be
yeah.
forgotten, but your teachings won't be forgotten.
That's
it's
awesome.
actually my order
Your
there.
impact won't be forgotten because that impact you gave to that person, they're going to impact that on someone else. And then it just keeps going and going and going. Because names can be
Yeah,
forgotten no matter how famous they get.
But your impact on
yeah.
someone is never forgotten.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Especially if they can pass it down. And that's how
That's
50
beautiful.
years after you leave, like those quotes that we read, those quotes came
Yeah,
from somebody and they'll be around until people stop quoting it. So, all right,
yeah.
here we
Well,
go. Fun part.
Jasenia, this is the best part of the show, and so we have what we call weekly wins. In a world that is, chaotic and stressful and seems to be so much negative stuff going on, here on the process, we like to focus on weekly wins where there's one thing. Tell us one thing that has happened that was positive. It's a way for us to focus on something that was positive. So, what would be your weekly win, or what is your weekly win? People call it
So
praise
something
reports.
that
We call it weekly win.
Okay. In my regard, I will have to say I have my newest single coming out. So we're starting on a new project. Super excited. My new single,
Let's go.
Luxurious, will be coming out on Saturday, August the 6th. So stay tuned for that. Saturday, August the 6th. Luxurious. It will be dropping. It's a new single, new video, all that in a bag of Cheetos. I wrote it, creatively directed it, I've edited it, everything. Like it's so much fun. It's a lot of fun and found a location and everything. I'm the producer of it. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun, jazzy stuff. And hopefully you can look out some other projects that I have out in the past, but this is the next big thing. And I'm really excited to share with everybody. We all had a lot of fun filming it. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna have just as much fun watching it. It's funny,
That's awesome.
it's vibrant. I love it. I'm really excited. But that's one of my wins. And it's just a constant reminder for me that, like you said, it's all about that you are yourself and knowing who you are and finding your passions and going after it. And I always say I'm one of those people. I'm really cut and dry. I always say, don't worry about anybody else. Just do what makes you happy. Really and truly, do what makes you happy. If it makes you happy going this way or that way, keep it pushing. People are going to have opinions, and that's all they are. They're opinions. They are not paying your bills. They are not. They are
Right.
not going to make you happy. They're not putting you in the direction that you want to go to. And I'm always very, very blunt when I say this. I say everybody else, block it out. What matters is what is important to you. Have a goal, go after it, and let all the positive stuff come with it. It will happen naturally and organically. Don't force it.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, my weekly win is I actually had a single. I have a single that dropped today. It's called Fall in Love. So for those of you that are listening and watching, go look it up. It's under DeAndre Presley, Fall in Love. Greatly appreciate it. And then the second weekly win is, man, my acting
Oh, you
debut
get
starts
two?
tomorrow. Oh, man, it's
Oh,
this week has just been fun. I got three to be honest with you, and I'm gonna say all three of them. So I got the single, the show, the Hank Williams play starts tomorrow, and then my mom is coming to visit me, and my little brother and my nieces and nephews, and so I'm just like, I am like, let's do the dang thing, man.
living
Let's
life.
do it. I really am, and I'm just
I love
accepting all the
it.
gifts that are coming. Kiana, your turn.
Well, I'm gonna do three too.
Let's
My
do it.
first weekly
Oh, shoot.
win is my mom ain't coming to visit me, so that's a win. My second one is I was tested Tuesday and really wanted to strangle someone, and I did not. But I was on the verge of strangulation, and I was able to compose myself and pull back and put on a nice smile and continue on. So that's a weekly win for me because we cannot do the show from behind bars, or else, I mean, I could do the Wednesday on the count prison show that we do behind bars, but not the process. And my third weekly win, and this is not because you're on, Jessenia, because we've had guests on, and DeAndre will tell you I've never used this as a weekly win. My weekly win was getting you on this interview today. That was my weekly win. And I know you can't see the two pictures that we have on the background, but when you go watch the replay, it's the picture of you blowing sand out of your hand on the beach, and it's a picture of your album Pride.
Oh, that's the single. Yeah, the single Pride.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I like it.
So you had your inner Janet Jackson you brought out on that cover. So
I did it all the time. All the time. I had somebody come up to me and say, "You look like Michael Jackson." At the time, my hair was like really poofy and crazy.
And you
like,
didn't use your
right?
country accent, but like twice this whole hour and 16 minutes.
Oh, yeah. So I have this thing where I'm really country when I'm comfortable with people. But whenever I have my interviews and everything, I have to kind of bring it back because people
wait till you hear her talk in her country accent. It will floor you.
You'll hear it. It's a thing. Like when I get it, you'll hear it. And it's weird because the mic here doesn't pick it up, but in person it's still very country. It's just my computer sucks at picking up audio, so it's probably not picking up any of the twangs that I've been saying, but yeah, it gets pretty out there. It gets really
like it on the butt, but we got you. All right.
Well, guys, this has been awesome, Jessenia. Thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your story, for dropping some nuggets. You definitely helped me out, especially with the trademark and stuff. And just looking at all the work that you are doing with your music, with acting and stuff, it pushes me. So thank you for blessing us with being on the show. So thank you, Kiana. As I always say, thank you so much for giving me the platform to be able to do this. This has been a dream, and now this dream is a reality. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And to everyone who is watching, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. We'll be here next week. So look to come back in. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.